And welcome back, everybody. As you can see, we have a smaller group of investigators than usual tonight, and that is not surprising because the Antarctic is a very harsh and horrible place, and we have our academics who are used to far milder climes and less practicality and perhaps more book, um, have gotten themselves hidden away in their tents up on the Antarctic ice shelf, shivering away in front of as warm a fire as they can manage as light to mild frostbite takes its course for the while. Now, this of course means that we have um, still some people around, specifically Roger and Valentina, on the morning of November the 29th. Um, Dr. Moore gathers you both after breakfast, and what's your reaction when asked if you want to go and excavate another one of those big five armed creatures that particularly um, our esteemed Dr. Stoddard is busy studying down at the investigation tent.
Uh, so he wants to go get more of those insane things that has been preying on my mind all night, keeping me awake due to the horrible nightmares that I've been having, and I didn't actually get any sleep until I solved my problem with something to drink. I say, you're crazy. When are we going home?
Oh, well, once we work out what all this is happening, but this is wonderful. This is this is why we came. This is indeed the find of the century.
I I stare aghast, like, and then I just reach into my coat again and I'm take a long swig.
But I take a point. We should keep some of the special finds for the late for those yet to arrive. I'm sure. Um, in fact, let's maybe we should go and try and find Doctor Lake's tent. I don't know that what we found yesterday was his. What do you say, Valentina?
I mean, it can't be any worse than what we saw yesterday, right?
This is indeed true. Walking in on a basically the remains of a human vivisection is probably not going to be surpassed, or hopefully not going to be surpassed. And you head down the row of tents, picking out the first one in line, and you spend several hours carefully digging out the snow and ice from atop uh, the canvas. This one, as opposed to the tent that you excavated yesterday has actually fully collapsed under the weight of snow and ice on top of it. So at least it doesn't do that mysterious growing out of the snow trick that the last one did. But you managed to clear the top of the tent using the electric ice melters that you have. But of course, you have to be careful not to damage the tent fabric itself. And when you do bring it up and jury rig some poles to be able to look inside, what you find is a total mess, even if the interior looks to be dry. There's a lot of spare clothing thrown around. There's a meerschaum pipe lying on the floor, shattered and crushed, as if by a heavy weight. There are a number of loose shotgun shells and some rifle bullets scattered across the floor by the single cot, but there's no fired or ejected cartridges. More importantly, no signs of blood. There are a pair of rubber overboots that have been neatly torn in half, lengthwise. There is a small, delicately carved wooden pipe box in small bits beneath the cot and behind the bedroll. The name PC Lake is engraved on a small brass plate attached to one of the bits.
So I'm not going to go into the tent, but the first thing I am going to do is I'm going to take another big long swig of my flask.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to make a con roll on that because I'm starting to get a
Well,
little inebriated. And I failed pretty badly that I'm not going to use luck on that. So I am also a little sloppy.
very good.
Lake was one of the leaders of the last expedition, was he not?
Yes, he was the paleontologist who basically set up this camp
Okay.
as a base camp for the further expeditions before they then, well, had whatever befall them befell them. And if the last
Are
tent is anything to go by, whatever happened was quite violent.
are the loose shotgun shells and bullets spent or not?
No, that's the odd bit.
Okay.
I pick up the boots and I'm like, what could have done this?
Yeah, it's as though somebody has taken the top of a pair of Wellingtons and torn them apart, and it's split all the way down through the sole.
So, like, ripped.
Yeah,
Hmm. How strong would you have to be to do that? These are solid boots, are they not?
solid rubber Wellingtons. Yep.
Valentino, there's nothing like obvious to nothing like cool to take a picture of or nothing. She's just kind of poke around and dig around for anything under the debris, stuff like that. If there's a cot that's broken down, like look underneath of it and stuff.
Okay. Yeah. So it makes sense that it's Valentina that finds the remains of the wooden box. Um, it has quite clearly been shattered, uh, maybe by a sledgehammer blow, something like that. It's a lot of very small pieces. So whatever hit it was clearly of some size and force.
I would open or try. I'd search it to see what's in there if anything survived.
Sure. Why don't the pair of you go ahead and give me spot hidden rolls with a penalty die, of course, from Roger.
I was waiting for a sanity check for some reason. Like we're gonna find a bunch of fingers in the box. Um, I think I had a 70 spot hidden, so
Sounds about right.
yeah, I could probably look real
I'm
quick and see.
not going to re-roll. It's not getting better than 82 or worse.
Yeah.
I that's the wrong roll. Hold on. There we go. I got an odd 3.
An ought three. Okay.
Yeah.
So, nothing particularly inside the tent, but outside. The area around the tent, since they're behind bulwarks of snow and ice blocks that were set up originally to shelter the tent from the prevailing winds coming down from the mountains. The ice and the snow haven't really built up too much around the tents, and you do manage to find some a couple of very faint pentagon shaped imprints in the frozen into the ice just outside the tent, um, almost as though they were footprints, but like sea anemone sort of star shaped.
I'd probably call over Tremblay and well, he's probably puking, so I don't know.
No,
Or
I'm
I'd
not.
call
I can
over
hold my liquor.
obviously. Uh call over him and I just blanked on the guy that was with us.
Oh, Professor
Uh
Moore.
yeah, Professor Moore. I'd show him. I'm like, this. What do you make of this? It's not my area of expertise.
Yeah, it's a pity that
I,
Stoddard is busy with the other specimen. He he might have a clue about this.
I'm very familiar with biology, Valentina, and I'm going to tell you something. I don't know what that is. Does that help?
Absolutely not. But thank you for trying.
I do recall, though, I had this nightmare about like a five-sided shape all night, I think. Could it be related?
I don't know. In my experience, dreams don't mean anything. So
Do it. Spontaneous mythos roll.
I think I actually do have a mythos score.
you should now. Yeah, you should have a 5 now. I think.
I believe
You
you do.
roll an odd 1 and spontaneously summon something.
Oh, I mean, that's a pretty low roll, but
Use the luck. Use the luck.
all right, we'll pretend I have 5. I'll use 6 luck.
Okay. It all suddenly comes clear to you in a moment of insight as you recognize the size and the shape as being very much akin to, well, assuming you got basic things like up and down vaguely correct of the well, whatever it was that you excavated yesterday out of the hammocks. Um, the At least some of the appendages of that thing ended in approximately those shapes.
And I tell Valentina, yeah, this is definitely my nightmare. That thing, whatever it was, it made these prints. I could have sworn I seen Maybe it walks on his hands, and it did. You go and look at it. I'm staying right here.
So you're saying that that thing that lived like thousands of years ago, correct, Professor, was
Um,
walking around?
I'm definitely not saying that. Professor Moore, don't you dare say that.
I think it's too early to say.
Good answer. Good answer, Dr. Moore.
And it's round about now that the windy silence of the Antarctic, where the constant pressure of the wind that sweeps down from the Miskatonic Mountains um, is there just as a susurrus in the background, is overridden by the roar of a pair of radial engines as the Weddell, one of the two Boeings, starts its approach to the camp. You can see it getting tossed about in the turbulence in the upper air, much as you all were on your initial arrival here up to the camps. And but the air somehow miraculously smooths out at the very last second, and the Weddell comes to a half braked, half skidded stop on the dugout or the flagged landing strip. Um, it has been mostly cleared of snow, but it's still a bit bumpy on the skis. And on the Weddell, um, we find amongst the, well, it's just about the only passengers because of the amount of dogs arriving, is Big Sue's, who's gotten to ride along for the last 2.5 hours from base camp down by the bay, um, along with the second part of the 3-part delivery of the big drill rig that is probably is going to be used to replace the broken drill rig uh, that could then be used to get into the cave where, if the stories hold true, Lake and his group found his incredible discoveries. So it's been the last hour, the first hour or so was quite pleasant, gloriously sunny above the clouds. Then, as the giant peaks of the Miskatonic Range grew ever closer and closer and closer and closer, the turbulence started in, and the dogs in particular were not the happiest, shall we say. So you're quite glad to be on the ground, and you've opened up the rear doors and let the dogs come out and form up as they group around you, um, glad to be out in their weather again after the travails of the journey. Um, you see the two new camps. So there's one camp that is the Starkweather-Moore and your other colleagues. Um, and there's one camp of Acacia Lexington and her cohort, slightly smaller. and then there's a little ways away from those two camps and where the Weddell has set down are now the dugout and the cleared remains of Lake's encampment from 3 years ago, probably untouched since Dyer's rescue expedition to recover the remains after, well, whatever happened, happened. You see, there's several groups of people out and about, but most notably, you see Valentina and Roger, along with Dr. Moore, standing over what appears to be the remains of one of the tents of the lake camp.
All right. I'll go ahead and actually walk over to them. I'll clap Tremblay and Valentina on the back and go, "So what's going on here, y'all?"
I have nothing to say, Valentina.
Oh, we just digging up tents and finding odd bodies in the snow. That's all.
I mean, snow does weird things to bodies. They all look odd out here. You get so
Yeah,
many
that's what I thought.
mummies.
Exactly.
Uh, Tremblay is just going to take another quick little swig and is just going to kind of sway in the wind a little bit.
Oh, you're going to keep all that to yourself now. I see how
Uh,
it is.
I need this. Get your own.
Reach into my pocket and take a hit off my own personal flask.
Mhm. As you do, would you care to make an animal handling roll?
Sure. Seeing as I actually have a sheet. Where is my handling? That's a hard success.
That is a hard success, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and one moment. Uh, need to look at that. Talk amongst yourselves for a second. Apologies for that. Just had to do a little quick DM with the Quest Portal devs to
Cool.
get them some detail. Um, we're having Quest Portal issues tonight after they managed to accidentally do too much of an update. But they'll have it sorted, I'm sure. Well, the problem is this. The wind is blowing basically away or from the landing strip through the new camps and down towards the lake, the original lake camp. And you set off down through. Let me see if I have a. I should have a. So you set off from the Weddell, past the radio masts, past the big supply tents, past the accommodation tents. When you get down to the large, slightly larger tent on the way further down to get down to Lake's camp, the dogs basically go absolutely wild. It's almost as for a second you think they've somehow gone. It's as if they went feral. Um, they set up just a massive howl. They want to go and surround the tent. They want to um, jump onto it and bring it down. They're just absolutely they really do not like that tent. But through your rapport and sheer capability, you manage to get them under control. But you realize that as you approach Lake's camp, that yet again they really don't like the area. They just get more and more difficult to control. So in the end, you end up taking them back up to the plane, where you can temporarily corral them in the back of the plane until you can have a word with your fellow mushers up here and add them to the overall kennels, and you set on down to Lake's camp, eventually arriving and having the words we just exchanged with Valentina and Roger.
Sounds great.
Dr. Moore is very happy to see you. He goes, "Oh, wonderful. I was hoping you were going to be able to make it, Susan. I suspect it won't be long now once we work out what really happened here that will have need of all of your skills to make an attempt on the upper plateau." But meanwhile, an extra pair of arms is never a wrong thing to have. Um, but come, it's time that we set up the or we make our afternoon radio report. And
Well,
Before we leave,
mhm.
were any of those shotgun shells or bullets or any of that, were they all still usable? Because
Yeah,
I will collect them up.
oh,
I've now
absolutely.
gone into a different mode, survival mode, and gun. Yeah, I'll collect up whatever's there.
Tremblay's going to shoot Big Seuss in the ass, isn't he?
Mm, if you look like a thing from the Abyss, then yes.
I'll do my best not to have 5 arms.
Yes, 5 is the new number. Don't do anything in 5s around me anymore.
High 4.
Exactly. I'm going to see. There must be a fear of 5. I'm going to look that one up.
There absolutely is.
Quinsophobia, I'd guess, or something like that, but
I know there's triskaidekaphobia, whatever it's called. Pentaphobia.
pentaphobia. Well, there we go. Good old Greek. So, yeah, you make your way back to the communal gathering that is the uh, late afternoon radio session back down to the base and out to the Gabrielle and the world beyond. Where Dr. Stoddard gets to make his report to the awaiting world. Um, and he says that, well, the specimen as I've um, examined it conforms to no traditional taxonomy. It has no bony skeleton per se, but the species, whatever it was unequivocally motile, fast, and strong. They were not plants. They were neither sessile nor passive, but appear in every way as predators, probably at home in an ocean or shallow sea. Um, and that news, together with the news that the cave should soon be open now that most of the drill has been assembled, um, makes the makes for a sensational broadcast that night. The three of you can go ahead and make psychology rolls.
It's a regular success for Valentina.
That is
Sue's
a.
failed.
Yeah, I think I failed too. Because I need to make hard rolls right now.
10 is straight base.
Yeah, but it's more the fact that um, the good ex doctor is well, his mind isn't exactly focused on the matter at hand.
No.
But um, it's noticeable to Valentina that neither Professor Moore nor, in fact, Miss Lexington mention anything about the camp during their reports. It's all about the the incredible find and the excitement over getting into the cave and being able to show the world what Dr. Lake and his group found. But
I guess Valentina would understand that. She can look at it from their point of view of keeping things more upbeat and not bringing up terrible things that happened in the past. So she might bring that up to these two at dinner, just kind of mention, or over the campfire or something. But it kind of makes sense to not drag morale down any more than it is.
I mean, when you find a big rubber polar bear down here, I guess you don't want to tell anyone about it.
I mean, it would be funny if Stoddard just found out it was a dude in a suit, but a big rubber suit.
I want to put it past it. Remember that weird fellow we saw when we
I mean,
crossed the equator?
exactly. Like we just saw Neptune out there in his drawers. So also, I'd keep an eye on Tremblay. He's not looking too good.
Yeah, he's drinking too much of his hooch. He needs to drink a little bit of my hooch. Offers you a drink.
I'd take Valentina takes a sip, but does not take too much.
Oh,
Thank
you,
you very
you took a
much.
sip of Sousa's?
Yeah, just a sip.
You, you might want to make a con roll just to see how badly it burns your face off.
Valentina can hold her liquor fine.
And the group settles in for yet another night, whilst the night crew, as it were, works to set up the drill and start their. The night is occasionally interrupted by the loud crashes of dynamite being somewhat liberally used to help clear the ice plug that has blocked off the cave entrance. And it's as the temperature is getting pretty decent, so call it about -5 Fahrenheit. But more importantly, there is an uncommon lack of wind, so there's basically no wind chill. On the early hours of the 30th, there is great excitement as apparently the drill has broken through, and over the next few hours, um, the hole is enlarged to the point whereby sometime after breakfast, it's actually possible for the um, first human to enter Dr. Lake's cave for the first time since uh, the events those years ago. And with that, I'd be interested to know where the three of you want to spend the morning of the 30th, in that there's now yet another site of interest, as it were, on top of the tents, the aircraft, the memorial cairn, but now also the cave.
I'm very interested in the opening of the cave. I'd like to spend some time there to see if maybe I could see what they're doing and possibly assist.
That's where the new story is. So that's where Valentina would be.
Um, so I have some shotgun shells. I think I'm going to spend my morning looking for a shotgun.
Okay. Uh, yep. Go ahead and make a luck roll, Roger.
I'm sober, I guess, now.
Yeah,
It's the
yeah.
morning. Okay, that's good. That is a success.
Okay. Um, It takes a little bit before you realize which of the supply tents actually holds the underside weaponry. But you do find a 10 gauge which matches the ammo.
Okay. I'm set.
Was it a 10 gauge double barrel or a pump? Just out of
Double.
curiosity. Okay. I just don't want to know how to picture Tremblay in my head when he's shooting that thing.
Absolutely. Which one is it?
And of course, the one who's going most insane and drinking is the one that we've given the gun to. That's
No
how it is.
harm. No harm will come of that, surely. Um, so we have the excavated hole leading down into the cave. The drill newly set up. Does anyone have a particular need or wish to be early through, or are you happy to let Pabodi and
I would love to be early in. Now, I do have size 90, so I don't know if the hole's big enough.
I think will be good. So as you go the quarter of a mile or so uh, southwest from the camp down to the drill site, you do see that the native stone approaches the surface of the ice here quite closely. And you see that as the ice darkens underfoot. The wind is that much stronger and constant, and the ground is just ice with the snow having been blown clear. So you see that the ice still clearly bears the mark of what used to be a well used trail. Um, you can see um, booted feet. You can see dogs. You can see sled runners. And just ever so faintly, of course, I can't find the example now, but you also notice a trace of one or two of the thing's stippled prints.
Well, I haven't seen any of these things yet, so I'm just going to have to assume that's one of them penguins we saw earlier, because
Mm-hmm.
I've never seen a
Yeah,
penguin before now either.
their feet was about that size, so that's possible. I mean, they were certainly inquisitive enough.
Yeah.
So I don't know if any of the three of you have any particular skills in geology, archaeology, or paleontology.
No, none of the players that are here now do. Um, I have, I think Natural World's my closest.
I take a hard natural world.
Hmm, let's give it a shot. That is not a hard natural world. Oh, 27. You know what? I'll use the 17 luck for a hard.
Sure.
You can't take it with you.
Yep. There's even looking up here, as you look around, you notice that what rock is showing, and particularly in the hole, is an unusual mix. In the you recall seeing one of those walls showing the various strata of geological eras in the Natural History Museum back in New York. And you're looking at the strata as you just poking your head or starting to walk down the ladder into the hole. And they're all mixed up. Um,
Hmm.
there's sandstones, there's glimmering schists, there's glossy black chunks and chips similar to that almost look obsidian like. Large amount of limestone with lots of marine creature fossils. Um, I would ask which one of you at the moment probably has the lowest luck.
I'm at 41.
You're the winner.
I'm the winner. You
So,
want a group luck roll?
nope. Um, it's just that Susan is the lucky one. That as she's making her way down, into the cave. I thought that's oh, I guess I need to be there. Um, so Susan is making her way down into the cave. She happens to just put her hand down in amongst all these bundles of fossils and broken off pieces of limestone. A piece of green, you find a small piece of green soapstone about the size of the palm of your hand. What's interesting is that it's very roughly star-like in shape, somewhat like those footprints outside, but smaller.
Hmm. Must be a penguin egg. I put it in my pocket.
So you come down next to a large gasoline engine uh, on the floor of this cave that's half crushed, and on its side, amidst a number of hoses, pipes, and drill heads. The cave itself is low, only about 7 or 8 feet from floor to ceiling, but there's little snow inside, probably due to the fact that the protective cover of the ice plug had been there. And as you go down, shortly afterwards, they fire up one of the gasoline generators outside and hand down a string of electric lights. It's do the rest of you join up with Big Zeus, or are you hanging back upstairs?
I do would be after, one or two scientists goes in first, though,
I'm
Okay.
I'm guarding the entrance.
with a
Clever man.
10 gauge.
So, those of you who go in, come down, and we'll assume that at least, where is he got to? There we go. Wigglesworth has joined you because I don't see that he wouldn't. You notice that this is a mostly limestone chamber hollowed out from inside of the mountain long ago, likely by a trickle of water from some long vanished spring or creek. The walls are pale tans, peaches, and greens. Hundreds of stalactites and stalagmites create a fairy forest of columns and spires that limit visibility to only a few yards. The floor immediately beneath the opening is dark with mud, churned up by boot prints and devoid of any trace of its original state. To one side is a small wooden folding table containing a number of small fossil fragments, a kerosene lantern, and a small tin of lucifer matches. The lantern still has fuel in it and turns out to light quickly. Next to that table, a number of shallow trays and boxes have been tipped over and pushed aside. The contents of carefully labeled fossil bones and bits of rock spilled across the ground and long forgotten. But away from the hole, the cavern is far more pristine. It extends in many directions, irregular in outline. Um, you basically can't get to a lot of it probably without some severe earthworking just because of the thick collections of stalactite pillars that bar the way. The floor is more level than the walls and turns out not to be limestone at all, but some thick sedimentary deposit of soil and fossil fragments washed from elsewhere. The deposits are built up one upon the next to a considerable height, basically caught by all the stalagmites. Um, it's as far as Wigglesworth is concerned, it's a paleontologist's dream come true. Um, there's a faint current of air, tangibly stronger away from the ceiling entrance, and when you add that to the freshness of air in the cave, it's clear that it connects to some far larger system beneath the Antarctic uplands. The Given all of that, the course of the Lake team's investigations can be clearly seen in the passages next to the entrance. There's matrices of sediment and fossils have been broken down and casually pushed aside. Boot prints clearly mark a well-used passage which follows the faint breeze upwind, angling slightly downhill for about 40 feet through the cave to a region that is heavily excavated. There's tool marks on the walls and floor, which lead to an open oval chamber 20 feet in length and roughly 10 foot deep, whose floor is level about 4 feet below that of the surrounding cavern. There's a series of deep depressions in the sediments at the end of that well marked stretch, clearly showing those penta star-shaped imprints. There's deep cuts in the surrounding rock and soil, showing where attempts have been made to establish the age of things from surrounding material. Um, but yet again, everything just seems to be higgledy-piggledy in a real mess.
So does it
Um,
not look like some of this stuff was from the expedition, or they did something in a hurry and made a mess? Like
no,
it's not very organized.
yeah, it looks like whatever was in those shallow depressions, and they're approximately the size of the entire thing that you excavated. They were just in such a hurry to get there that they paid no heed to what they were going through.
Okay.
And the the writings of the day, or at least the writings of Dyer that was published as at Beyond at the Mountains of Madness, did suggest that there was a particular mania to Lake and his activities after his original discoveries. And that does seem to be borne out by the careless disregard for the treasure trove of paleontology that's here. So much so, in fact, that Moore is having to take Wentworth back up out of the cave, or Wigglesworth, rather, because he's having flashbacks to the his desecration concerns of yesterday. Um,
Valentina would get pictures of the little depressions where they dug this thing up, and maybe just like the workstation and stuff like that of how we found it.
go ahead and make a luck roll, Valentina.
That is a regular success.
Okay. As you let off your camera flash, you notice a glint from just deeper in, up by the roof of the cave. Basically, deep enough in that you could you can actually reach the roof, and you find a small stone, dark slate grey. Yet again, it's smooth and hard with 5 points to it, but a number of minute depressions across the convex surface that you can barely see. What's particularly interesting is that it's slightly warm, quite almost pleasant to the touch, even though the air in down here is still sub-zero.
She would like hold it to her face and just like, this is like maybe stick it in a mitten, like a little hand warmer.
Mm-hmm.
What
Like, Suze, look at this.
what you
Like,
got
feel
there?
this. It's a stone and it's warm.
Oh,
This is fantastic.
you got yourself a penguin egg too.
Penguin egg.
I pick it up, realize it's warm to the touch. I'm like, oh, Mama must have just gone away. You got to keep this warm. I take it and I put it in my armpit.
Yours or mine?
Well, yours is warm, so clearly yours
Yeah.
is ready,
Okay.
getting ready to hatch.
Okay.
Yeah. What's of note is that Susan's is greenish in color, as opposed to the slate gray Valentina's.
While hers is out, like the main difference is the color. Like there's nothing else I can see make out of it other than the color that's different. They're both the same design.
Also, hers is um, it isn't as smooth. It's sort of more roughly cut, whereas yours is polished,
Hmm.
even with the small slight indentations. But you can really only just feel the indentations with an ungloved hand. It's difficult to see them.
Okay.
Well, I mean, do you see any more of those eggs down here?
I'll take a turn around this room and kind of work my way back out into the main room and look for any more of these things if we can find them.
Um, yeah, you spend a bit of time, but other than fossils of all sorts of kinds, um, land creatures, sea creatures, plants, um, you don't really find anything else of potential interest, at least you imagine to be so.
All right. Um, does it look like this one was explored? Does it look like all these other ones have like trails where people have walked and explored these other ones? Like the ones that kind of go off to the upper left there?
No, they appear to be unexplored to some extent, mostly because of the probably because of the sheer density of stalagmites and stalactites. So it's
Okay.
difficult to maneuver through, but there is uh, yeah, they're all pretty much the same. So they an inch or so deep covering on the floor of loose um, material and limestone fragments and fossils, etc. So it does very much look like this at one point in the far distant past was some um, riverbed or some such.
Okay. So what's Professor Moore doing down here? Uh,
Uh, Professor Moore has one was is spent quite some time over by the table examining the state of the um, fossil collection, and also wanted over to join you at the excavation site. And is he seems at the same time both relieved and saddened when he sees the state of the excavation, and he says, "Well, at least in this much they were able to tell the truth in that this is clearly where they found them. But what happened afterwards? That's what we must know." I'm sure there's still much to be found, but I'm also sure that Wentworth and the others will have much as much cataloguing to do as they wish. I think we should go and report. And you gather the party back together and head back to the radio tent for the afternoon report. Where you hear that Starkweather, you get to listen to 15 minutes of Starkweather delirious or gloriously regaling anybody who will listen with the greatness of his achievement of gaining the peak that he set out for against no small snowstorm, and with no trepidation. He says that you should be able to make his way down over the next day or so, and he'll call for the plane to come and get him probably the day after tomorrow. Acacia reports in that they have found they have spent the day clearing yet another one of the creatures, which in turn has kept Stoddard busy, and that they've managed to excavate instead of the one that you brought out, which was already partially dissected. They brought out a whole specimen, and it is indeed magnificent. And more reports that yes, they've managed to get into the cave, and it's everything that Lake promised and more. It's indeed the find of the century. There's remains here that will keep paleontologists busy for decades to come, and they'll all be singing our praises for it. So I don't know if there's anything more that the group would want to do with the evening, or I mean, you could still go out and excavate one more site. There's, after all, 24 hours of daylight. Or you could hanker back and sit back and make notes and rejoice in the warmth of the day's work exploration well done.
So have they? Are they sending daily reports back?
They're sending 2 reports a day, so one round in the early afternoon and one at night.
Today, did they mention the cave when they sent stuff back?
Yes.
They did.
Yeah.
I think she wants to do a story on the cave. I think just like descending below the ice and something like that.
Oh, cool. Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. Go ahead and make an education roll.
I'm thinking I have a 70 in that. I could not find that
Yeah.
stat when I went back and looked. So
I don't know I think this is the first one, so
oh, I'm gonna spend 9 points to make that a regular success.
oh,
Success.
sure. Yeah. Uh, you very much um, yeah, you managed to put together a good story and get it off to the Gabrielle under your byline. So it goes out on the evening. It has all the appropriate. I guess I would ask. In my mind, it's a question between it being a New York Post article and a New York Times article. How whereabouts on the tabloid to broadsheet? You're still muted.
I think she'd go slightly more tabloid
Okay,
because she's not mentioning anything as she's not mentioning a lot of the previous expedition to where it would have to be more of a somber tone. So I think it would be more tabloid.
absolutely. Find of the century. Um, Cave of the fossils. And yeah, likewise, such things. And so yes, that goes out. Um, and the night settles in, much as
I'm gonna go look for Big Sue's because I have very important questions for her. Um, First, I do definitely hand her some of my flask. Here, have a swig. We got to have a nice, serious talk, you and me. Um,
Yeah, sure. What's up?
do you know how to fly?
Uh, I mean, I don't not know how to fly.
Hmm. Yeah. Do you think an airplane could make it out of here?
I mean, an airplane made it in here, so I don't see why it couldn't make it out of here.
Like across the ocean to somewhere not here,
Yeah,
like
sure.
Antarctica.
I think my understanding is Chile would be pretty close.
Oh, well, let's I'll keep that in mind.
Why
I
do
would.
you ask?
Um, I'm not sure I want to be you didn't see what I saw. I don't think we're going to want to stick around. If one of those things is walking around
Was it
after what it did to people, I'm out. We're gonna fly, and we're flying till that plane runs out of gas if we have to. I just don't know how to fly, so
I mean, was it a penguin? We saw those weird critters the other day. You sure it's not just a weird penguin?
how about you convince me it was a penguin? That might make me feel better.
Well, I mean, I've got one of these penguin eggs, and I pull out the one from underneath my coat.
Uh, I take I'm like, put that thing away, and I take a big, another long swig.
I put it back in my coat.
That is, it, that sort of triggers my pentaphobia a little bit. It's a five-sided star, isn't it?
Mhm.
Yep. Uh, I'm like, okay, I need to go calm down. I'm sorry. I'm gonna, and I just kind of walk away.
Yeah,
Stefan,
yep.
is this self-warming stone going to give me radiation poisoning before the end of the session?
Your stone isn't warm.
No, I took the one from Valentina as well, the one that was warm, and I've
Oh,
been
okay,
keeping it under my coat.
Oh, okay.
okay. It's the second one. Um,
As far as
it's
I'm aware, I'm carrying
it's
two. If
1933. Korea has only been dead for a couple of years, near as I can tell. So who knows?
oh, good.
Radiation isn't a particularly well known or understood thing at this point. So therefore, you're perfectly safe.
But of course, any like sheets of paper I sit too close to, I leave a marking on.
Well, you haven't heard Valentina complain about fogginess on her film yet. So there is that.
Oh,
However, that being said, go ahead and make another animal handling roll.
regular success.
Okay. Ever since you've come back from the cave, none of your dogs seem to want to have anything to do with you. They'll back away. They don't approach. They go back and raise their hackles if you walk towards them. If they're cornered.
What- What's with y'all? Is it? Uh, here's some jerky. Here's some pemmican. Uh, what have you seen? And I pull out. I'm just starting like trying to see what's new about me. So I'm going to offer them the stone.
Okay. Hmm. So you had a regular success. They very clearly react as though they're really frightened of the stone.
Okay.
The
Well,
warm one.
the warm one specifically.
Warm
Okay.
one specifically.
Well, I guess.
It's like they get the scent of it and they really, they'll seek out the furthest corner, hide underneath each other. Um,
Well,
the you reckon that it's only your command and familiarity with them, and you move your voice into that calm, slow, deliberate, it's safe speech mode that is keeping them from twitching and actually attacking you.
well, I will get out of the dog kennel and go find Valentina then.
So, Valentina, you've just stepped out of the dark room portion of your tent when there is the proverbial, as it were, knock on the tent flap.
Yes.
Hey, Valentina, I'm really sorry, but I can't keep this penguin egg stone thing. The dogs hate it, and I don't know why, but I am not going to spook my dogs over a penguin.
Alrighty. I'll take it back then. That's fine. I'll take the stone back and guess your dogs don't like penguins.
I guess they don't.
Go ahead and make a power roll. I know we
Who?
said that. Sorry, Valentina.
Oh, this is gonna go well.
But I didn't have to make one when
Yep.
I took it originally.
Yeah,
Cool.
you're fine.
I made it.
You made,
Hey!
Wow. Opa.
you know,
Congratulations on not melting.
it's probably only because you haven't felt it since the cave when Susan took it from you, or you gave it to Big Sus. But if you didn't know better, you'd say that the stone is warmer now than it was then.
Well, Sue's had it in her armpit, so that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, I've been warming it. That's it.
Yeah, exactly.
Now make sure and keep that warm, Valentina.
Got my own heater in my tent.
Yeah, it's maybe well, I say warmer. I mean, it's still cool to the touch, but compared to ambient air, it's warmer. So it's maybe I don't know, something like 15, 20 Fahrenheit when the outside air temperature is -5.
Okay. Um, she'd probably just carry it in a pocket at this point. I would imagine. Honestly, she doesn't think it's a penguin egg. She just thinks it's a rock. So,
It's just a warm rock. Yep,
yep.
and it's not even glowing green.
Just a question about what's on this expedition with us. Would we have Geiger counters or anything like that? That stuff would that be on this expedition or no?
Um, I don't believe that Geiger counters were part of the as equipped equipment.
Okay.
Uh,
J-
or if
I was just
or if they are, they're back at main camp down by the SS Gabrielle.
all right. I just imagine somebody having one and just me going off like a Christmas tree. So, uh, for future.
Yeah. So, given all of that, I think I want everybody then to make another power roll.
All three of us, or
Yep,
just
all three of you.
well, that's a fail.
Everything's coming up, Valentina. I made another one.
And it looks
You're
like,
muted,
You're
Trombley.
muted, Tremblay, but I see you. You made it as well.
Yep.
yep, that all makes sense. So, Roger, having a restless, light sleep night, I think just feels to be expected. For whatever reason, Valentina just happens to be almost awake at 4:30 in the morning on the 30th, when the sky is filled with the noise of yet more radial engines. And you rush out or jump into clothing and stick your heads out of the tent to see a flight of three-engined aircraft about the size of your Boeings come swooping down from the northwest, um, forming a line astern and then breaking off and coming round and in succession coming down to land. And in fact, the first plane pretty much almost takes off the tip of the flags that are marking the runway. It goes that close down to the ground before pulling back up. You see that they are prominently marked with the registration letters D, BFEA, BFEB, and BFEC. Crosses in black on white. The crosses are outline black crosses with with a white cross in the middle, as it were. And there's the word Barsum Falcon Exp written on the side as well.
That was one of the other expeditions, wasn't it? That was around here.
Yeah, the Barsmeier Falcon expedition.
German expedition, wasn't it?
It was.
That's what's making Valentina nervous here.
Yeah.
And you go ahead and make navigate rolls, or what we can attempt for them.
What's base and navigate? I don't think I have anything in it.
Call it 20.
Yeah, I don't. I think my navigate's somewhere in the 40s, but I think I just failed. I'm willing to spend 5 points to
Okay,
make it
yeah,
happen.
we'll call that.
Okay.
I don't think I'm here, so.
Um,
Because we
yeah,
haven't handled that failed power roll.
for the navigate roll, you're not there, but you are now awake at least, because you're not going to sleep through 3 Junkers trimotors flying over the camp. So Roger, you realize that the way they came in before turning around to make for the landing strip, they came in almost due south, or from the south. So they probably flew over the pole pretty much to get here. As the 3 trimotors touched down in an absolute whirl of blowing snow and slide up on their skis towards the camp. They come to a stop. The heavy rumble of their engines die away, and somebody sticks a hand out from the cockpit and waves. And you see men in heavy flying leathers open up the rear hatch doors and step out. This is while, of course, a lot of people from the camp start to rush forward towards the planes. So you've got Professor Moore and Miss Lexington pressing forward, hastily dressed. Only 2 out of 3 layers, that kind of thing. Miss Lexington rushing forward, shaking hands with the people coming off the planes. Moore hanging back a little bit. What's the three of you? Uh, where would you place yourselves in the absolute forefront, talking or welcoming or shooting down these intruders, guests, etc., or hanging back, seeing what develops, or taking an interested perch at the rear from a good photo angle?
Photo angle, and I want to basically eavesdrop on whatever conversations they're having, if I can pick it up. Hopefully, they're not speaking German.
I'll probably be getting a little closer because I'm going to be I'm a little concerned about the way they just kind of flew in. That something might be wrong, and I'm looking to see if there are any injured parties that might need first aid or medicine.
Seeing as I'm late to the party, I see myself as being very like tired and asleep still. So I'm probably in the back because I'm not really for sure what's going on at all.
Sounds good. Go ahead and make a listen roll, Susan.
That's a success.
Okay. You do hear from the second of the three planes, so DFEB, the unmistakable sounds of a group of huskies.
I'm actually gonna, if the planes are off to the side, I'm actually gonna go check on the Huskies.
Okay. So in total, Valentina, you see a group of about 14 men in identical parkas um, descend out of the three planes. Susan makes her way up to the middle one and sticks her head in and is promptly basically overrun by a group of a dozen huskies, very willing and eager to leave the plane, seemingly in the company of one of the 14, who is a rather dour looking gentleman. But Susan recognizes him as a fellow musher pretty much straight away. And there follows, I imagine, a rather excited yet linguistically challenged conversation in that um, um, yes, the musher basically really only speaks German. I don't know that Susan has any real German to speak of.
Language wise, I only have a little bit of I poorly speak English and I have a little bit of Native Alaskan.
Yeah. Fortunately, both of you speak Husky. So there is that. But yes, there's there's a very chaotic language mix of English, German, bad German, appalling French, um, some incredulous Italian, just a whole mix. And a stepping out of the group, having disentangled himself from Acacia Lexington in particular, a thin, bearded older man climbs up, back up the ladder to stand in the open airplane door of the first plane. And it says, my ladies, gentlemen, please, I have the honor of being Herr Dr. Johann Meyer. I appreciate your kind welcome and hope that our expeditions will equally benefit from our shared scientific talents. I bring greetings from the leaders of my expedition and their salutations on your perseverance in the face of every difficulty. If there is anything which we can do to assist you, please approach either myself or Dr. Professor Uhr and state your needs. Our labor, supplies, and equipment are at your disposal, within reasonable limits, of course. Again, thanks for your hospitality, our congratulations on your successes, and our hope of many more to come. And he steps back down into the group, and uh, things basically form a chaotic gathering, at least for the next 15 or so minutes. So um, if there's anything that you wish to deal with whilst everybody's in a group, you've got the moment to do so, or you can. There's these newcomers look like they're here for at least some time, so presumably they're going to start preparing camp here shortly.
So I'm just kind of confused on why they're here. Were they invited? Can I like go talk to Moore or Starkweather and say, did we
Sure.
invite them here? I don't understand why they've. Were they listening to our, the news we're reporting and crashed the party? I'm not sure what just happened.
Um,
Especially the way they pompously landed on our in our camp.
and it's probably the first time in a long while that you've seen more in a completely overrun mood. Not since not since Starkweather made his infamous "We're going on to Australia no matter what" pronouncement on the Gabrielle after the freezer room incident. Have you seen more in this kind of events have clearly run ahead of him more than he's expected. Apparently, Miss Lexington invited them in.
Okay. And we're just opening the doors to them?
Well, she has. And frankly, I'm not about to turn down their help as long as that's what they're giving.
I I think we need to send them off as quickly as possible. I don't I there's a certain swagger to the way they've approached this that has me a little concerned.
Valentina is she doesn't think it would happen, but she's looking to see if she can recognize any of these men as the one that they accosted in that alleyway and threw in the trunk.
Go ahead and make an education roll, Valentina.
Valentina, I will tell you that I have his passport still.
I got a regular success.
Regular success.
Yes.
Um, you don't recognize anybody as from the group of people that shanghaied the artist back in New York, but you do recognize one of the group. Herr Dr. Professor Franz Uhr is a highly renowned anthropologist.
So I just know him by reputation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Uh, and it's about then that um, one of the newcomers produces a tripod with mounted camera from one of the planes. It's of course a top of the range Leica, and asks Valentina if she would mind taking some group photographs of Herr Dr. Meyer uh, shaking hands with Professor Moore and Miss Lexington, um, as well as Herr Dr. Professor Uhr, um, with some suitable backdrop of the Miskatonic Range, and generally what Valentina feels immediately is that wonderful mix of what I did on holiday and publicity photographs for the look, didn't we spend your money well crowd back home.
Valentina does her job to the best of her ability. So
Absolutely. No roll needed. It is, after all, the very best and well set up German equipment. It's quite a pleasure to get your hands on this stuff, um, as it were. It's none of this Kodak try two times get one result sort of. And it's not long after that the group starts setting up a third camp up at the Lake Encampment, as it's been becoming known. Um, they're a they're a mix, although a proud and arrogant mix mostly. Um, Interestingly, if anybody, it's Herr Dr. Professor Franz Uhr, who's the most personable of the bunch. He's sort of his view as to why he's along on their expedition is that, well, it's because I look like Saint Nicholas. No, yeah, yeah. My position with the expedition is given as cartographer, and I'm not so bad at that. But I am sure someone somewhere chose me because they want a photo of me at the South Pole. So the question is, what do you want to do with the morning? The Bosmeyer Falcon group is busy setting up their camp. Interestingly, this involves raising a two-masted, 4 meter tall radio antenna next to your one-mast, 1 meter tall radio antenna.
Is this a privately funded expedition, or is this like a school thing for the Germans? Like, they're way better equipped than we are. Like, is it more of a and
Um,
it's like
it is. You have a word with Dr. Meyer, and he will admit that it is, we are privately funded. Dr. Klaus Falken and Herr Josef Basmeyer have organized our enterprise, well, with assistance from the German government and some companies, most notably the German Airship Transportation Company and the Junkers Aircraft and Motor Works Company.
so is there German government or military folks on the expedition to kind of oversee things?
There are representatives of the Kaiser's government with our main camp.
Interesting. Well, stay warm. Uh, and I'll just kind of leave to go somewhere else.
Absolutely. And so from there, Dr. Mayo and Head Doctor Professor Orr, um, being seemingly exempt from the camp building, um, head off to one of your larger tents to speak initially with Acacia, and they have a closed door meeting for about an hour or so. At which point they send for Professor Moore. Professor Moore, in turn, opens an invitation for any of you who wish to come along to do so.
Yeah, sure, more. I can join.
Yeah, Valentina's going to be going along. She wants to figure out what the hell's going on. And meanwhile, Tremblay shows up with a shotgun just to figure out what's going on.
It's in my medical bag. It sticks out, but I mean, it's the best I could do.
Hopefully, you don't have to prescribe that anytime soon.
Good news,
Have you
it's a
ever hit a deer?
suppository.
I have.
So there is basically reasonable and friendly discussion. The Germans catching up on what all has been going on in the camp, and finding out that there's still quite a bit to uncover. I mean, obviously the cave has been mostly excavated. That's sort of the main thrust, but a lot of the camp still has secrets hidden, they think. Um, Interestingly, neither Acacia nor the Basmeier Falcon group talk about their talk at all. And you can kind of see more wanting to find out, wanting to ask, but he's not going to do so in front of Acacia because it's clearly her private business. Um, and so after about an hour or so of not of just preliminary or not, where are we, what are we doing kind of discussions, um, Mayan or does say that they will need to rest for a while after the long flight and camp building, but will be their group will be available after dinner time because, as you see, he says, I think we must speak of hours. Our expedition uses Greenwich Mean Time in our clocks, whilst you follow the proper time for your ships. Isn't that so? It's so amusing that we are just 12 hours opposite. Our midnight is your midday, and so weiter. This, I think, can help us both. Our parties can each other work whilst the other sleeps. In this way, we shall all be but most effective. Don't you agree? And Professor Moore kind of shrugs in a, yeah, I can't deny the logic, but I want to disagree kind of way. Um,
Would Valentina be able to ask some questions during that initial
sure,
conversation?
absolutely.
Because she's a little curious about what the Germans have been up to, and I don't mean to put it that way, but uh, because so she's gonna play the newspaper card and just like want some background information on what their expedition set out to find, like where they set up initially, things of that nature, just to kind of get some background on their whereabouts up till now.
So, their expedition was apparently sent to conduct surveys on the Atlantic side of the continent. Of course, your base camps are on the Pacific side. And to trace the course of the mighty mountain range discovered by the Miskatonic expedition, i.e., the Miskatonic Mountains. Madness. And their goal is to evaluate the natural wealth of the continent and determine whether it can be profitably exploited. Because, of course, this is all before the non-exploitation treaty of the Antarctic powers. Um, they left Bremerhaven on September 15th and set foot on Deception Island over 4 weeks ago on October 27th. Their aircraft landed on the South Pole on November 2nd. So they were already on the South Pole when Acacia Lexington overflew it. Their main group is camped inland from the shore of the Weddell Sea, but today they flew, or overnight they flew in from an intermediate camp on the Central Ice Cap. Go ahead and make, I would say you can go ahead and make intelligence rolls. And Roger can quite happily be listening in on this from outside if he wishes to, or if he's in there, I forget.
Just gonna listen.
I failed.
What's
I,
what's 1/5 of 70? Anybody off the
one
top of their
fifth
head?
of 70 is 14.
I'm going to spend 4 points of luck to make that extreme.
Absolutely. You're struck by something. And actually, a couple of things in that latest piece of exposition. One is the central ice cap. That's basically most of Antarctica. The other
You
is,
lost me a second there.
oh,
What was that
sorry,
you said?
the Dr. Meyer's use of the phrase that they had an intermediate camp on the central ice cap. The central ice cap is most of Antarctica. It's a very rough position. Likewise, the Weddell Sea. The coastline of the Weddell Sea is longer than the Pacific coastline of the US.
So they likely weren't as far away as they claimed, I'm guessing.
Or at the very least, they're being very vague as to where they actually are.
Okay. I do have a question for the other people here. Did somebody else start a session 12 notes? Because
Yeah,
I'm writing one. You did? Okay.
yeah.
Because I started typing one down below. I didn't see that you had put one. So I'm gonna copy. I think I've got. I'll copy yours into mine because I've got more stuff than you do.
Perfect.
Okay.
Absolutely. Low hanging fruit and all that. I figured since
Yep.
we're missing our resident librarian.
Yep. That's kind of why I forgot about it until just a little bit ago. So I was scrambling to get stuff in.
I will say any notes that I've tried to take haven't been sticking, so that's on my end though. I Quest is working weird for me on that.
Okay.
Hmm.
And just a clarification for the notes, the first day we started this session was November 29th, and that's when we did found the other tent, and Sue's arrived. The
Correct.
30th is when we drilled the hole open and went back down to where lakes
Lake
below
found
the
the
ice,
things. Yep.
and we found our stones. And the 31st is when the Germans arrived.
The first is when the Germans arrived.
The first is when the Germans arrived. Oh, thank you.
Yeah. It being November into December.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
This Trying to find. Oh, yes, here we go. So, with that in mind, and lots of newcomers having set up camp just 100 yards down up the road, as it were, I think that is as good as time as any to call tonight at a halt. And thank you once again to all my wonderful players, without whom I would just be sitting here talking to myself and going quietly insane. So much better in company. So good night, one and all, and we will see you anon.